Do you remember what you were doing at 17 years old? I can tell you, I don't remember. Even if I did remember, I probably wouldn't share with you because it would be pretty embarrassing. But no, seriously. I know the one thing that I was not doing at 17 years old was thinking about investing. So anytime that I have a 17-year-old or any teenager that has either read my blog or watched me on YouTube that has contacted me or messaged me and asks me, how do I get started investing? Like, that blows my mind. Like, I love it. I love the fact that teenagers are ready to get started investing before they are legally adults and they're coming to me to ask me how to do it. Now, I had a recent 17-year-old that wanted to start investing that contacted me, and I want to share with you what I shared with him on giving him some actual steps and strategies that he can get started invested today. So what did I share with him? Well, we're going to find out right now. I mean, it's seriously crazy when I think about a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old. I had a 12-year-old comment the other day that wants to get started investing. It blows me away because that wasn't even in my vocabulary, you know, in my teenage years. I mean, it wasn't really my vocabulary until almost my mid-20s. Now, a lot of it was my upbringing. You know, I didn't have any family members that really talked to me about investing. I didn't really have any interest in investing. I mean, I struggled with math when I was in high school. So to invest, to make money, to make return on investment, I mean, none of that interested me at all. Like, I didn't even know what a stock was probably until I was in college. So the fact that I have these teenagers contacting me that want to get started investing, man, I mean, I love it. I love it because I love it, which I want to talk about more in an upcoming video. But the reality is this: if you start investing in your teenage years, so the 17-year-old, which I'm getting ready to share with you what I share with him, so he's going to get started investing, and maybe it's going to be stocks, maybe it's going to be mutual funds, maybe it's going to be something else. Chances are, whatever he invests into, he may or may not make any money, right? Chances are he'll probably lose money. And that's okay, because he doesn't have a lot of money to get started with. So he might not make a huge return, or he might take a little bit of loss on his initial investment. But what he's going to get out of this is so much more experience than anybody that is watching YouTube videos, that's reading blogs, that's reading books, you know, that's doing all the research before they actually make their first investment. Because you learn so much in actually doing instead of reading about how to do it. I mean, you can do analysis all day long, you can do research all day long, but until you actually go out and do it, you're not going to learn anything. I mean, you learn so much more by taking action. So anytime I see these teenagers that want to get started investing, that want to invest into something, I love it because they're going to be so far ahead of the curve, because they're going to go through all those initial struggles that most people do when, you know, they're older. They have a little bit more money to invest because they haven't gone through any of the learning process and some of the pain points that come along with investing. Because usually what happens is that when somebody invests for the first time and they lose some money, they get scared. They get scared, they don't understand, they're losing money, so they end up cashing it out and leaving it in the bank, or they don't invest it, and that's just opportunity lost because they didn't leave that money there, or they didn't have the time, or didn't really have the fortitude to know, like, okay, that investment didn't work, but let me go to plan B, or let me evaluate another option or other options that are out there. So if you're getting all of this out of the way when you're a teenager, my goodness, I mean, it's just amazing. And what ends up happening is you have so many strategic, what I call strategic byproducts of taking that initiative, taking that initial investment and taking action on it, that by the time this person is in their 20s, I mean, they're going to be so diverse, they're going to be so much more experienced and understand the investment game, and who knows what other opportunities it has led them to because they've taken action. So that's why I just love this. So let me go ahead and dive into what the 17-year-old asked me, like what his question was, then also share the specific answer that I gave him. So let's take a look at what that question is right now. All right, so let's dive into this. What was the question that this 17-year-old asked me? So here's the question. Hi, I'm a 17-year-old who is looking to invest a small amount of money, around $3,000, but I would like to diversify so I won't lose it all. Some long-term low risk as well as some higher risk short-term. Any suggestions on what good short-term investments I could do? Also, I'm hoping to invest enough for a safe cushion so I can start my own business and focus on that without a side job. So as you can see, we've got a lot going on with this question. We've got short-term goals, we've got long-term goals. We want to start a business. Now keep in mind, we only have $3,000. Yes, I'm amazed and excited that a 17-year-old has the discipline to save that amount of money. But the reality is, like, when we start trying to diversify and splitting all this up, it doesn't leave us a lot left over to do a lot of things with it. So we really have to be very specific with what our ultimate goal is. So is the goal short-term gains? Is the goal long-term gains? Or is it to start this side business? Now, the other thing I want to address is that every new investor, every experienced investor, we get really caught up in these short-term gains. But the reality is that, let's just say that we take $1,000 of this $3,000 and invest it. And we put it in the stock market, we put it into stocks, we put it into ETFs, mutual funds, whatever. And let's say that it makes us 10% return in our first year. Okay, so how much is that really? How much can we quantify that? So really, if we invest $1,000 and we make 10%, we've only made $100 for that entire year. And when I share those type of returns, because that reality is, like, that's what we're looking at. If we can make 10% in the market, we can make 10% on any money, any investment, like that's a solid return. But here's the other side of that is that if you're trying to make 10%, you run the risk of also losing 10% or losing more. So we get really caught up in trying to make these short-term gains, but the reality is that if you have this unrealistic expectation of how much you think you're gonna make or how much you can make, chances are you're not even on the same page, on the same planet. So you run the risk of putting your money into something that's too aggressive for money that you may need for an emergency or some other goal that you're trying to accomplish. So for the 17-year-old, I have to assume that he is making some sort of money. I don't know if he's mowing lawns, if he's babysitting, if he's selling things, a lemonade stand, I don't know. If he has some sort of job where he has W-2 income, then I would highly suggest that he open a Roth IRA. Now, he won't be able to do that on his own. He'll have to have a parent do that for him. But if he's close to 18, then he could do it himself. Once again, though, you have to have W-2 income, reportable income. You can't have like a side job where you're getting paid in cash. But man, I would love to see a 17-year-old, a minor under the age of 18, opening a Roth IRA, because now we've got tax-free money building for retirement. But also too, for the short term, the one thing I love about the Roth IRA is that you have access to the money that you put in. So if he were to put in $1,000 or $2,000 into that Roth, he can always take that money out at any time. It's just the interest and the earnings that he would have to leave in until retirement. Now, if you don't know much about the Roth IRA, or if you want to learn more, you can check out one of my other videos where I talk about how to become a Roth IRA millionaire, where I talk about all the different ins and outs of that Roth IRA. So besides the Roth IRA, the other option that I really like, and this was the final question that this 17-year-old asked, is using some of this money to start a business of some kind down the road. Now, to me, that is where you're gonna get the most bang for your buck, because starting a business, whether it be an online business, whether it be Amazon FBA, whether it's selling t-shirts on eBay or Shopify, doesn't matter what this is, right? If there's any business that this 17-year-old can start today, my goodness, you're going to get so much more than just putting your money in mutual funds, putting your money at the bank, doing more like the traditional investments. Like, yes, you're still gonna learn a lot in that, but man, when you have to actually start a business and you start learning about gross margins and gross profits and setting up an LLC and setting up different accounts and expenses, whew, I just get all excited, because you're just gonna get so much more out of it. And to me, the long term, if you can stick to it and you find something that you like, even if it's not the first or second or third business idea that you start with, even if it's not that, you're going to learn so much through that experience that this will get you the largest ROI, return on your investment, than any of the other things that I've discussed in this video or other videos. So that's the idea that I'm most excited about for the 17-year-old, if they're willing to do it. Now, once again though, there's risk in anything, right? There's risk in the investments I've talked about. There's risk in doing it the safe way. There's risk in starting a business. You have to be willing to stomach some risk. You have to be willing to recognize that every investment that you make, you're not going to make money every single time. There are going to be times that you lose money. There are going to be times that you break even. There are going to be times that you maybe make a little bit. But through all that, eventually, if you stick to it and you just keep doing your market research, you keep seeking mentorship, you keep seeking other entrepreneurs, business owners, like-minded individuals, you will find something that will yield you some nice profits if you're willing to invest and just do it. So out of all those, that's the one that I'm most excited about for him, for you, for anybody that's watching this that is wanting to invest, to get started in something. Start some sort of business, obviously an online business. There's just little to no, well, not no, but there's little upfront cost starting an online business and a traditional business. So that would be the avenue that I would encourage you to look at. All right. Okay. So that is my advice to the 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 13-year-old. Doesn't matter how old you are, you can do any of these. Obviously, you gotta have some parents, some guardians to help you out if you're trying to open up some sort of guardianship account or a guardian Roth IRA or custodial Roth IRA, whatever. Either way though, you can do it. Don't let any of these be excuses prevent you from taking action. Okay, I'm done, I'm out. This is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Just go out and get started. Let's do it. Peace.